that meeting, and the announcement was made to the public that same day. Mr. Henry explained that it was important to cancel all of the events due to the fact that it will facilitate a number of people being in one place, which reduces the likelihood of social distancing.
All these events that were approved were events that brings people together. Remember, the law requires that events that have more than 25 persons would require permission. So it means then that all these events would have had more than 25 persons, and we had well over 100 events that were already in the system.
100?
Well over 100, wow. And most of them would have already been approved. Wow. So, and all of them would have been over 25 persons. So we see how many persons we would have had coming together over the short space of a couple of days. Most of these were between Friday and Monday.
He added that an extensive contact tracing exercise has begun to ensure that persons who came into contact with the positive COVID-19 patient are quarantined. The Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis has expressed its commitment to helping clients to be financially literate by educating them to manage their finances and start a business. During her appearance on Wednesday's edition of Working for You, Operations Manager Jasmine Irish touched briefly on the business support unit of the bank. She said, quote, "We have consultants who would actually help persons prepare their business plan. If they have issues in the area of marketing and they would need advice, we have consultants who would assist them in that area," end quote. Mrs. Irish noted that the department engages in regular training and is very active in the communities. She said, quote, "That unit normally has workshops and they're active in field visits, and on those field visits they go to find out the issues with the business, how the operation is going, if they're having financial issues where they're unable to maintain their regular monthly payments. When DERP comes in, they will go to the unit and we will give consideration to restructuring those loans so that we can give the person a better opportunity," end quote. DERP stands for Debt Evaluation and Restructuring Plan. It is a plan where the bank evaluates and assesses clients' income to see how best they can help them, as some may stand a better chance if their debts are consolidated, just to put them in a better position. The aim is to see how best the bank can better position clients to repay their debt once they meet the requirements of the evaluation process. As part of the regional credit union movement, the St. Kitts Nevis National Cooperative League Limited has joined with its credit union affiliates to assist St. Vincent and the Grenadines following the eruption of La Soufriere. ZIZ News spoke with Acting General Manager of the St. Kitts and Nevis National Cooperative League Limited, Julie Charles, who said the monetary donation was made in keeping with the principles of the credit union movement. Ms. Charles said the funds were used to assist members of the credit unions throughout the island who were in need of help.
We don't just deal with St. Kitts and Nevis. We talk to our sister credit unions around the OECS and also around the CARICOM and even in Canada, United States, and wider afield. So our sister credit unions, of course, would have been affected by the disaster of the volcano, and it is part of our principles, our operating principles, that we have cooperation among cooperatives as well as having a social responsibility.
She said the donation was well received by the credit union counterparts in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
We, along with our affiliates, donated a good amount of funds to assist the St. Vincent and Grenadines credit unions and the credit union leagues in assisting their members who may have been misplaced from the disasters. So those persons who would have been in the red zone, I think there was one credit union that was in the red zone that could not open, and so we were able to get the funds to them so that they can buy food and supplies and other things to assist those members. And that was an excellent way of how we show that our operating principles come out and be in action.
She said every credit union member in the Federation can be proud knowing that their credit union has assisted persons like them in St. Vincent.
Last week in April. So it took a little bit of time because of what's happening to get the funds there, but I'm happy to report that St. Vincent and the Grenadines League were able to say, yes, we received the funds. And they sent us a really nice thank you letter and saying to us, they really appreciate that we've reached out. And again, it is a community, it is a movement, it is a family. So I want persons to know that as credit union members here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have done for you what you would want to be done if we were going through something like that.
The St. Kitts Nevis National Cooperative League Limited is made up of the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union, the Nevis Cooperative Credit Union, the Police Cooperative Credit Union, and First Federal Credit Union. Moving now to news on the regional scene. St. Lucia's COVID-19 numbers appear to be heading in the wrong direction, with public health authorities warning of a possible outbreak if the population fails to take heed of the pandemic measures. Epidemiologists at the Ministry of Health provided a detailed breakdown of the rising caseload, which is cause for serious concern. More in this report.
The overriding message from Tuesday's hour-long media briefing by top executives of the Ministry of Health was simply, St. Lucia is not out of the woods as far as COVID-19 is concerned. The month of May saw a sharp rise in COVID-19 cases and deaths, a trend that began at the end of April. National epidemiologist Dr. Michelle Francois says it's all heading in the wrong direction.
Over the last 28 days, we've had 414 cases. This is of significance to us because if we look at the CDC travel, the guidelines indicate that over 100 cases is considered very high risk. So we pay particular attention to this because we need to know how we are classified and how we can adjust our measures to ensure that we are not in the criteria of very high risk.
The month of May is particularly telling with the numbers trending upwards. Dr. Francois warns that there's as great a need as ever for adherence to the protocols of social distancing, mask wearing, and the washing and sanitizing of hands.
So we've had almost 20 cases a day, and this is between May 5th to May 18th. We've averaged 20 cases a day, and that has not changed for the past 14 days, sorry. If we look at our 14-day average, we have gone from 12.6 cases per day to 19.8. So in terms of that, we have moved from April 21st to May 4th, from 6.9 to where we currently are at 10.9. So there is some increase in activity in terms of the number of cases being diagnosed on the ground. And in terms of community transmission, if we go by the Centers for Disease Control, what we notice is that we are now at substantial transmission. In terms of the total new cases per 100,000, substantial transmission would be 50 to 99. So we are not moving in the correct direction. We have been increasing cases, and this is of concern, particularly with the new variants of concern that have been diagnosed.
Just when it seemed that St. Lucia was on the verge of turning the COVID-19 situation around, comes a rise in cases and deaths, with a population increasingly demonstrating unwillingness to adhere to the rules that are meant to keep the COVID-19 situation under control or to be vaccinated. The health authorities have the making of a mammoth challenge on their hands. Stanley Lucian for the HTS News Force.
In Antigua and Barbuda, efforts continue to ensure the country is prepared for any eventuality this hurricane season. That's especially since there are suggestions in some quarters the season may begin to show signs of activity ahead of the official June 1 start. Sherilyn Beezer of ABS News has more.
We are presently engaging the stakeholders in a series of meetings to see what, if any, gaps exist in their preparation based on their responsibilities, so that we can see whether or not we can do what it is we can do to bridge those gaps.
Mullins says if the gaps aren't fixable, strategies would have to be designed to work around them. The office, he says, is also engaged in training and discussions with the district disaster coordinators and volunteers. The NOD's director says the paper-based method of collecting data will be changed this year to a more efficient process. He says the new method will be a combination of paper and electronic, with more emphasis on the electronic.
What it does is it gives us the opportunity to receive the data from the field almost real time. And so once the information comes in, it automatically tallies. And so from the Emergency Operations Center at a glance, you can look at the screen and see exactly what the scope of the damage is across the country based on the information that's been inputted into the system.
The NOD's director has this appeal for those on medication, as well as the physically challenged and their caretakers.
So reach out if need be so that we can see what it is we can do to assist if that is required, and to make sure that they have the relevant contact information for the volunteers in the communities.
Sherilyn Beazer reporting for ABS News.
Internationally, New York's Attorney General has opened a criminal investigation into former U.S. President Donald Trump's business activities. Attorney General Lucia James has been investigating whether the Trump organization underreported property values to avoid taxes and overreported the same values to secure loans. Al Jazeera's Patty Culhane reports.
In his first run for president, when his opponent criticized him for possibly not paying federal taxes, Donald Trump described it like this.
So
that makes
if
me
he's
smart.
paid zero.
But now authorities in New York are looking at whether it was actually criminal. The state attorney general, Lucia James, had been looking at possible civil violations that could lead to fines. But now she says she's joining the investigation led by Cyrus Vance, the Manhattan district attorney, looking at potential criminal charges. The issue: did Trump say his properties, like Trump Tower, were worth less to the government to pay less tax, and then tell banks they were worth more to get loans? Tax fraud and bank fraud can carry prison time if convicted.
It's entirely possible the former president goes to jail. This has been on the horizon during his campaign when people were talking about some of these problems with his taxes in particular. And some of these charges, it would also not surprise me at all to know that at some point there would be federal involvement as well, because tax fraud is a federal crime.
The former president claims it's political retribution, in a statement saying there is nothing more corrupt than an investigation that is in desperate search of a crime. But authorities are pressuring his longtime accountant, recently going after the tuition records for Alan Weisselberg's grandchildren at this expensive prep school. Weisselberg has worked with authorities in the past, getting immunity in exchange for testifying against Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen. But it's not clear if this man, who's believed to know everything about Trump's finances, will or is cooperating. Trump is facing widespread legal issues. Here in Washington, D.C., the Attorney General is suing the inaugural committee and his company, alleging that the committee was overcharged dramatically during the inauguration to use the Trump Hotel, spending more than $1 million in just a matter of days. While he was in the White House, Trump was able to keep his records and himself free from prosecution, protection he no longer has as a private citizen. Patty Culhane, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Now for the weather. Current conditions are fair skies with a slight dust haze. Winds are a mild breeze of 7 miles per hour from the east. The temperature is 31 degrees Celsius or 87 degrees Fahrenheit. Seas are moderate with waves of 3 to 5 feet. The weather forecast in St. Kitts and Nevis for tonight will be mostly fair with a 10% or slight chance of showers, and tomorrow partly sunny with a 30% or low chance of showers. Sunset today will be at 6:37 p.m. and sunrise tomorrow at 5:38 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.